All right, welcome everybody to today's Society Gal workshop with Natalie Solomon. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to hand it over to you. Go ahead.
Hello, hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be able to take this time with you in Society Gal community. For starters, drop an emoji in the chat that reflects how you're feeling. Get your notebooks together, get your little Zen space if you're situated on a nice little uh, pillow or what have you, or in your bed or what have you, because we're going to go through some exercises today, and I want to make sure that you have your tools available as we navigate this. And then we're going to get started. Just as a background, this workshop is active. There's really going to be some key takeaways surrounding reclaiming your energy, balance, and boundaries. And, those of the ladies that I know are participating in Society Gal and are of the community are very busy, high achieving women. And I really want to make sure, sometimes we're too active, but there's going to be a little bit of activity today. So as long as you want to make sure that you're participating, and I really want to see feedback in the chat. And feel free if you have a question, raise your hand, and if I don't see it, just blurt out, and that's fine. Um, so, so drop an emoji on how you're feeling today. And then also, I have something else in the chat. In one word, describe how you want to feel by the end of this workshop. Okay? All right. So let's get started. So, myself, Natalie Solomon, I have a master's in public health and behavioral and community health sciences, trauma-informed public health facilitator by day. I am a public health analyst for the federal government, and anything that I express here is of my company, Merake Life and Style, under the Merake Empowerment Collective, not reflective of the Department of Health and Human Services. Need to make sure that I put that in there. I also am the creator of the Secure Your Oxygen Mask Framework, Breathe, Balance, and Bloom method, which we're going to get into today. And how do you balance where you're going with what you're doing in your entrepreneurial work or just your everyday work-life balance. All right. And I help high performing women move from survival to sacred leadership with science-backed wellness strategies, things that are proven. So a lot of the stuff that I've talked about today are exercises that I've done with my background in abnormal psych and through my public health training. Okay. So, what you'll walk away with today, burnout awareness, which I'm sure a lot of you, exactly, yes, a lot of you are feeling based on all the different things that we're working on. I want you to recognize the hidden patterns that are keeping you stuck in overwhelm and understand the real cost of overfunctioning, which some of us do and not realize that we are doing. And then the sacred rest ritual, which is a three-step formula, which is the breathe, balance, bloom framework that I referenced earlier. And how does that help regulate your nervous system and reclaim your energy in real time? And then boundaries. What are your ready to use language and mindset shift that can really help you adjust your peace and protect your peace and without guilt or apology, honestly, because I think a lot of times we are forced to think that we have to feel guilty or feel some type of way for taking charge of our own lives. And that's something that we're not here to do. This information it's more than information. It's about transformation. How can we leverage those tools to do so and incorporate those into our lives? So, my oxygen mask moment that kind of framed out what I'm talking to you about, thinking about what happens when the strong breaks. Well, there was a time when I used to work 90 hours a week. I don't recommend it. I still working for the government. Folks are like, how do you work 90 hours a week working for the government? Because I know sometimes folks don't think we work that much, but in actuality, some of us do. So I was working some 90 hours a week, and I was unfortunately having some chest pains one day on my way to work, and I drove myself to the ER. And I was literally hooked up to monitors in the room, and I still have my laptop, and I got a phone call because I'd been applying for jobs. And the person on the other end was like, oh, we have a position for you. And I was like, this is great. However, I'm in the ER right now. So can we reschedule? And I heard silence on the other end of the phone. And the lady was like, ma'am, we're not going to give away the job, but call us back when you're out of the hospital and we'll talk. Because we appreciate, your skill set and we're considering you as a strong candidate. Um, so I really had to pause and literally sitting there in the bed. And that was one of my first moments of an indicator of what was I doing wrong. And if you don't slow down, then your body will slow you down and get your attention. So we all heard of the secure your oxygen mask first mantra when you're in the plane, right? And you're supposed to put yours on first before you put it on anybody else's because you trying to help someone else put their mask on while the oxygen is depleting in the cabin, you're going to pass out. And now that takes out you and the other person that you were trying to take care of. So that's why I was like, okay, I need to stop trying to give my whole self to this job in my career, or else I'm going to be back in the hospital. So just keeping those things in mind and you taking stock of where you are, right? So what is the hidden cost of overfunctioning? We normalize it. We give and we give until we're empty. We overwork as our identity in the sense of we show up thinking that's how we prove ourselves in our workplace, in our families, in our personal lives, thinking that that is justifying what we're doing. And then we're overcompensating for everyone else's needs. Because I know we've all been in that situation. You know what? I'll just do it myself. Because you trying to get other people to do it and then you're like, I already have it in my head. It'll be quicker for me to do it. And then now you've put more of a load on you and taking that responsibility off of other people that I'm sure are capable, but their learning curve may be a little bit steeper. But you still need to take that time to say, you know what? No, I need to delegate. You know, and overscheduling to feel valuable. All of us, I'm sure, have our calendars packed. I have mine, there's one around here somewhere. I just got a new planner. I have another one. I have a digital one, but I'm a little addicted to planners. They're really pretty and I love them. And that doesn't mean I'm necessarily leveraging the way I should be. But when we look at stress, and I saw some comments in the chat, um, chronic stress is not a badge of honor, right? It is not something that we should be touting that this is great. It's a warning sign that all of us have. There's good stress and there's bad stress. There's distress, right? Which is causing your parasympathetic nervous system to overreact, and then you're in fight or flight system all the time, and you don't know when to sit down. Your mind keeps going. You can't go to sleep. You have insomnia. Your blood pressure goes up. You get anxious. And for those of us that are maybe in the perimenopausal or menopausal stage, like myself, I'm in menopause. Our fuses are a little shorter. And we kind of, kirk out on folks and stuff like that. We normalize chaos to stand up and be leaders in our organizations and our um, spaces of work. And it's killing us, and we can't serve others from depletion. So let me ask you, when was the last time your body forced you to slow down? Put that in the chat. If there's some times when you realize my body is telling me I need to have a seat, you know, and you really take on way too much because you want to look to, how can I stand up for this? And that's not good. We don't want to do that. Yes, my brain literally hurt. Yes. And to your point, because I've dealt with chronic illness for a large part of my life. Unfortunately, I have stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Recently was out of the hospital a week or so ago for a botched hysterectomy that happened in 2019. And trying to handle all of those things and literally being hooked up in the hospital more often than not, it really brings into sharp relief, like, what am I doing? You know, when your body tells you to slow down and you don't listen, sometimes it'll put you in a hospital like mine did a couple weeks ago. So, and we can't do that. We really have to be mindful. So, what is this sacred reset formula that I was discussing? Yes, you can't get faint. We have to listen to our bodies because what good are we to anybody if we're laid out? Because I literally was not allowed 2 weeks ago when I was in the hospital. I drove myself to the ER again, but that's a whole other discussion. They had alarms on my bed every time I wanted to get up to go to the bathroom or go to the restroom. And they were like, nope, no, no. And I had to have the nurses come and take me because I had to release and let someone help me. And it should never get to that point. So when we breathe, and we're going to get into an exercise with some breath work in a minute. It's a permission to pause. There's power in pause of what you do. It builds regulation and emotional awareness through healing and honoring your exhale. It is so important. You can't do anything if you're not breathing, right? You will pass out. You will get faint, like excuse me, the participants mentioned. You know, so then how do we incorporate balance? How are your boundaries and your energy audits? How are you monitoring how you're interacting with people? Are people draining you? Are people pulling from you? And are you allowing them to do that? Have you set that boundary and unapologetically set that boundary? You have to use that to build alignment, to leverage authority, to nurture your clarity and empowerment, to stand in what it is that you want and what you expect of people and what you expect of yourself. And then this all leads to letting you figure out how can you bloom. Because once you're breathing properly and you've balanced what you need to do, you can put yourself in a bloom state of mind and you can reclaim your sacred yes, which is just as sacred as a no, which is a complete sentence. And it allows you to become liberated through the ownership of your mission, of standing in your truth and being able to assert yourself unapologetically with those boundaries and establish your authentic purpose in what it is that you do. So let me know if this is resonating with you, these formulas and these steps, if these are something that really kind of speak to where you are. And, I'm thinking that there's been shows that say relax, relate, release, right? And that's along the same vein of breathe, balance, and bloom. You have to take a breath and pause. Yes, Mara?
Sorry, I needed to unmute.
Uh-huh.
I'm curious about those of us who now have trouble breathing because of something like a past time having COVID or something like that. Where literally taking that breath, you can take a little breath, but not that deep breath that might
hmm
help.
Yeah, so, it's interesting that you said that. So last week, when I went into the hospital, I went into the hospital because I literally could not breathe. I had, from my botched hysterectomy, they transected my uterus, and I have chronic pyelonephritis. Has put me in the hospital several times, almost died a couple times, and septic. And to your point about breathing, that shallow breathing, my nurse came to me last week because I had to have once I was released, I had a PICC line, it was in my heart or whatever, and the nurse was checking my oxygen levels. And she was like, I am not pleased with the levels that you're breathing. But I had been doing short breaths, not realizing it because that it was so painful for me to just inhale. And then that leads to you being dizzy. And if you have long COVID, and how do you process that? So that really leads into what you see on the screen with box breathing. And when you're really trying to give yourself that permission to breathe, a lot of high achievers, we confuse stillness with weakness. Like we should be doing something. It's not passive. So one thing that I would recommend with this box breathing is when you inhale for 4 counts and then you hold it for 4 counts and you exhale for four. And then you kind of sit for a little while and you repeat that 3 times, right? And with the shortness of breath, the 4 counts is usually not as long as like if you're doing you know what I mean, and trying to completely expand your lungs and your diaphragm. But if you're doing the inhale for 4 counts, that's a little bit shorter time that you can build up to as time allows for you, to kind of get into that. So let's practice that now. Okay. So I'm going to count, um, and we're going to just slowly inhale. I don't want anybody falling out while we're talking. because I can't see everybody. So if you fall out, I won't be able to signal for you, okay? So we're going to inhale for 4, and I'm going to count. Already. Right, ready? We're going to inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then just sit still. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do it again. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. The third last time, if you're feeling a little bit more comfortable, inhale through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And exhale. 2, 3, 4. And then just sit for 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me ask you, was that something, I know that was kind of quick, but I didn't want to drag everything out, but it's a tool. Let me put in the chat if you feel that's something that you can practice. I know sometimes folks are like count to 10, but maybe you can only get to 4, you know? Maybe you can only make it to 4. So giving yourself that tool of just inhaling just through your nose, and that there's, and those of us, there's different types of breath work. There's some that if you inhale quickly through your nose twice and then have a long exhale, it allows you to calm yourself down too. I'm a little stuffy today, but yes, Mars, start somewhere. Yes. So you have to, so it's good that you're willing to at least try it and then build up. Give yourself grace while you're going through this. Do not put pressure on yourself that, oh, I can't do it. Just, and make sure when you are inhaling, you're inhaling from your diaphragm. So your tummy should expand, right? When you're inhaling. And then when you're breathing out, you purse your lips and go. There's other types of breathing where it's the hatha and you're like, I'm not going to do that because sometimes I've done that and I'm like, woo, feel a little woozy. So, and that's something that you have to build up to, you know? So yeah, so write down, and let me ask you, even though beyond this, to expand this, what are you exhaling emotionally today? You don't have to say, if you want to put it in the chat, fine, but if you want to write it down in your journal, as you were doing that exercise, I know you were focusing on the breaths and the counts, but when you go back and try it again tonight, maybe before you go to sleep, think about what are you emotionally exhaling today? Where have you been holding your breath in your life? Physically and metaphorically? Are there certain things when you walk into a room and you hold your breath because you don't know what's going to happen? Or just getting up and getting out of bed? I know for me, that definitely was like that a couple weeks ago when I was precursor to me going into the hospital. Just me getting out of bed was like, whew, yeah, I don't, And then there's days where I can't. I literally have just slid out of bed because my body would not allow me to do that because of me living with chronic illness and having to deal with, I've been in the situation when I woke up from my brain tumor surgery, which was 10 hours, I wasn't allowed to sit up. I wasn't allowed to put my feet on the ground because it could have killed me because of dislodging the brain fluid, you know, and sitting only at a 45-degree angle. And there was a laser that was measuring if I went above it, and alarms would go off. And ICU would be like, you got to sit there and learning how to walk, have to walk be on a walker and then a cane and just taking two to three steps, and that was too much. And my breath was like, I can't catch it. And I had to go back and sit in the bed. So when I speak of this, it's not just as an exercise, it's something that I personally have gone through and have had to deal with and manage. And then eventually getting to the point where I can have a conversation. Or, I still have moments, and I do have asthma, so that wasn't great. But compounding that and being on multiple different, inhalers and the like, right? So I hope that was helpful for you all. So going into, leading into what I had asked about how you have or what have you emotionally been exhaling or not exhaling or draining you. That comes into play with boundaries and your energy recalibration. Because if you're holding your breath for certain things, right, that means something in your energy field is preventing you from moving forward because you're paused. So there's a good pause and there's a bad pause. There's a pause that can be an impediment to doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. And then there's a pause that actually helps you take care of yourself. So this is what this is where can you guys hear me? No? Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. Okay, great. Um, so yeah, so this is where we reclaim what's ours. This is where boundaries come to play and release what never was. Because a lot of times we take ownership of things that never was our business to take on in the first place. And understand that boundaries aren't rejection, they're protection, right? We got to look at number one, identify energy leaks. List in your notebooks, list three things currently draining your energy unnecessarily. If you feel free and want to put some in the chat, please do. But for you, as a self-identifying list to go back and look at, put down in your notebooks or what have you, three things that are currently draining your energy unnecessarily. So that could be, I don't know, I know it's summer, and for those of you that may have children, you feel that you may have to, and some of the children are of age that they can pack their own lunch to go to camp, but you take it on yourself to pack everything and organize something for your significant others or doing the laundry, knowing good and well they can go in and take that Tide and put it in there or the pod and put it in the washing machine and do it themselves, or that who can cook, who can take, outside of being a taxi to folks, in the family or what have you, or just giving yourself too much of organizations that you may be in and just trying to show up for everybody. And then number two, practice the trade-off. Complete this sentence. When I say yes to blank, I'm saying no to this. So for example, there was a event that I wanted to go to a couple weeks ago. And if I said when I said yes, if I would have said yes to that, I would have been saying no to taking care of myself and putting myself in a bed, right? So write down when I say yes to something that you may do, I'm saying no to this. Now, it doesn't have to be a negative. When I say yes to myself, I am saying no to the obligations and expectations of other folks. So you can do it either way, but kind of sit and think about that. And if anyone would like to share some examples of what that may be, feel free. I can't see everybody's hand or anything like that, but if anyone would like to share or put it in the chat, please let me know. Okay. And then number three, try this script. I can't take this on right now. And see how your body responds. Do you feel guilty? Do you feel like, oh, I really should be doing this? Or do you feel obligated to take care of someone else's needs that you really don't need to do? Where does that put you? Write that down as a mantra to practice, because that's not something that you can automatically do. I can't take this on right now. And that's okay. It's a no or not right now. to save for yourself. And some people, for some folks, if you're that person that always says yes, like, oh, I'll take care of it. Some people may feel some type of way and have an attitude with you. Well, that's their problem. That has nothing to do with you at all, you know? So you got to remember that, take care of yourself. That self-care, I know it's very, very trite. It's kind of cliche now, and it's definitely overused in the wellness space. But really think about, I can't take this on right now, right? Okay. And then, like I said, moving on with boundaries without guilt, reframing your mindset, like I had mentioned earlier about saying no. Saying no is saying yes to yourself. They have equal self-respect, not selfishness. Now, being selfish is not a bad thing when it is not causing harm to others. But you also have to think about not being selfish and self-care is a strategy. It's a lifeline for yourself because you have to, because no one's coming to save us as individuals. We have to make sure we're putting ourselves first. And that's not in the putting myself first in the narcissistic framework. It's I'm putting myself first to take care of me, to make sure I'm saying yes to me. And that if I know you all have heard the analogy about when your cup, if there's you can't pour from an empty cup, right? When you really should be giving to others, if letting by pouring into your own cup and letting it overflow, whatever is left in the saucer is what you give out because now your cup is still full, and anything that has overflowed into that saucer is what you can gladly give to somebody else, but you are still filled with what it is you need to do to take care of yourself. And write these scripts down, these sayings. That doesn't align with my capacity right now. Give me a moment. That's just not where I am. I'm not available for that, but I wish you well. Some people may take offense to that, but sometimes you got to be okay with that. And let me get back to you after I check my commitments. So that third one may be more of a level of comfort for some, so that you don't have to answer at that time, right? And not feeling guilty. You're not saying no, you're just saying, look, let me look at my schedule. If that's something that I'm able to do right now, great. If not, maybe we can circle back and revisit it. So write those ones down as well into your notebook. Okay. So then we get to the last one. Bloom, your sacred becoming, right? Blooming isn't about perfection. We know when flowers bloom, they don't all bloom perfectly. And that's the beauty of them blooming. Some, petals are off to the side, some are a little split. Um, oh, Mara, okay, great question. How do you not practice? Practice. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that, and Mara's question is, how do you not feel guilty and get more comfortable with all of this? It can take a while because a lot of us, when we are taking care of others, some of it comes from people pleasing. And that can also be steeped in trauma bonding or some other traumatic experience that has happened in your life and you want to make sure that you're being seen, right? Because if you don't feel like you're seen, you're going to always try to show up for everybody so that you feel seen. But the cost of that is a detriment to how you are taking care of yourself. And not feeling guilty is something that you really have to practice. You really truly have to and be unapologetic for it. And sometimes you just start with a slight no, because sometimes, you don't no is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody if you don't want to. Now, that may not happen right away, but the more you practice it and give yourself that other comment that I said, well, you know what, let me get back to you. So you don't feel guilty. So that's a comment, that's a catchphrase that you can kind of ease into, right? I'll let you know, I will get back to you. Because you're not shutting them down. Like someone may ask me something, I'll be like, no, and that's it. Now that took me a while to get to that point. It doesn't always happen because your relationships with people, your loved ones, maybe even your adversaries, your boss, people that you want to get in good with or you feel like you owe something to. Don't let that come into play when manipulation may be coming, which is a reality. And people might try to pit you against yourself to their benefit. All right. So it's something that you kind of have to practice. But I would suggest, like that last comment, just kind of ease into that. And then you just, like with anything, after 20 some days, kind of becomes a habit. And you can still say no without being snarky or anything, maybe we can revisit it, you know. So when you're looking about the sacred reset journaling, so as you're setting up these things for yourself in a journal, what are some things as you're sitting here thinking about this in this workshop, one energy leak that you're letting go? What could that be? Always answering the phone when that person calls and you feel obligated to talk to them, or giving yourself an extra 10 minutes before you go to bed to start to create a bedtime ritual, or giving yourself a couple minutes before you get up and go and start rushing for everyone else. What's a boundary that you're reinforcing? Setting an alarm for yourself. So one thing that I had to do for work, once I was out of work for about a year. And when I came back, I had to set on my cell phone what my tour of duty hours were because I would have kept going. So my phone goes off at 5:30 and I give myself maybe a 15-minute grace period, but if it's 5:45, I'm done. Now, it took me a while to set to that, but it has become such a point that folks know Nellie doesn't work past 5:45. So now everybody understands that. Or I blocked out on my schedule at work lunchtime. So, and I also make meetings with myself. Now, to anybody else looking on the outside, it looks like my schedule is packed. That's fine. Those who need to know, I communicate, check with me if that's the time that you really need to meet, because I may be meeting with myself. Just how you meet with other people, you need to carve out that time and meet with yourself, whatever and however you organize your calendar life. And that is a boundary that I have had reinforced. And one sacred yes that you're reclaiming. And that's kind of a double-sided coin right there because that time that I'm reclaiming is my lunchtime. That time that I'm reclaiming now because I have to go back into the office every 5 days a week now. And before COVID, and I had been working from home for almost 4 or 5 years due to my illnesses. And now I got to go back and have an hour commute and some change. Um, that robs me of time. I have to be up by like 5, and if I want to work out earlier, and then be on the road go pick up my carpool buddy by 6:45, and then I don't get home till 7, and then I have class, and then I have this and I have that. So, and then by the time I get home, I'm like, when am I going to eat? When am I going to do this? So, what are those things that you can think about that's a sacred yes, even if it's I'm going to go read, I'm going to go do, I don't know, watch a cartoon or go watch the news. I wouldn't necessarily encourage that these days, but you got to protect your mental health in the best way you know how. And so look at that last question. I give myself permission to do what? And verbalize that. Tell yourself that. Write it down. Because a lot of the times with muscle memory, it's just reading it is not going to suffice. I'm a very tactile person. Yes, I have my phone, but I journal almost not every day, but I journal a lot. And I have little things that I write stuff down, which is kind of, I'm a recovering journal, um, kind of, collector, if you will, because I'm like, oh, this is pretty. I'm gonna write it down. But how do you give yourself permission to do what? Give yourself permission to sit down and be quiet. Give yourself permission to take a 5 to 10 minute nap or a walk or something like that. Those are all things that you can kind of think about, right? So, drop your sacred yes in the chat. Give me some examples of what your sacred yes is going to be. How are you going to take care of yourself after this workshop? Just once, it could be, it's a baby step, just one small thing. Your sacred yes could be like, I'm going to drink 2 more glasses of water today. Or I'm going to make sure that I get up and lay there. When I get up in the morning, I lay in bed and give myself 10 minutes, you know? So give me some ideas and drop in the chat. Some other folks in the workshop may be able to think about, you know, what that may be and what that may look like for you and sharing that, right? So when women prioritize their peace, they don't just survive, they lead, love, and live differently. That's one of the huge takeaways. Yes, write out some affirmations. Give yourself to sing songs, to karaoke. I love it. Yes. Dance around your house, whatever. Talk to yourself in the mirror. Talk about, girl, you look good. Hello, gorgeous. I know you fine today. Even if you don't feel like it. Even if you don't feel like it. I know there's days where I do not look like what I have been through. And some people are like, girl, how you been through this? You been through brain surgery, you did this. You don't look, well, I don't want to look old and decrepit walking through looking like the Crypt Creeper either. But for me, that's how I am able to embrace the day, face the day, because when I look better, I feel better. And that may not be everybody's thing to have the face beat and makeup and hair done. And some people may see that as being vain or what have you. But what everybody else thinks is none of your business. You got to worry about what you're thinking. You know, you have to think about, you are worthy of rest. Rest is productive. Peace is your birthright. It is not a luxury. And that is something this past weekend, after my nurse came on Friday and she removed my PICC line, which is something that I can get antibiotics through to my heart and all this other things. I had stuff I had to do this weekend, but I literally just laid in bed like all day and watched Chip and Joanna Gaines every single episode of the castle, the hotel, the welcome, whatever. Because I'm my other line of work is I do decor and create sacred spaces and for women that are going through chronic stress and recovering from chronic illness. Um, and I felt guilty. I had to talk myself. I was like, oh, I gotta get up. I gotta go prepare. I gotta go do this. I gotta do that. And I was like, Natalie, go sit down. Go lay down. I literally had to talk to myself to get back in the bed, use my weighted blanket, and turn on something on TV. I don't really watch TV, but streaming, what have you. But it was a conscious effort that, and also to the self-talk, going into the boundaries and self-respect. Self-talk is crucial. Friends of mine know how I feel about self-deprecating talk, and that I have popped my friends on their hand when I've heard them talk negatively about themselves. I've had a stern talking to some of my other friends when I hear them talk about themselves. Because you listen to yourself, that lodges into your self subconscious. You have to be very mindful. That's why I say when you're practicing these things, when you're writing them down, you're verbalizing them, and then you're writing them down, and it kind of sinks to your mantra, to your mindset. And I know that's a cliche and that's like kind of an overused term nowadays, but affirmations are very important. And you use them for what you can. And I'm not saying you say them every day, but if you find different things that speak to you, you hear yourself every day. And you really have to be mindful. And you don't want to put things in the universe about yourself. And then there's self-fulfilling prophecies. That's how I see it. You know, um, but those boundaries equaling self-respect, protect your energy, protect your purpose and everyone you serve. You have to take care of yourself. You truly, truly do. And then looking at, oop, oop, okay, sorry. Your sacred yes matters. Alignment over exhaustion, authenticity over performance always. You know, don't just show up to because you feel obligated to. You like you should, your breath, is anchored in regulation. Your balance, you honor your boundaries. Your bloom, you're aligned with your sacred yes. Whatever that is that you thought about or you wrote down today in your notebook and you're going to go back and refer to tonight, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, what have you, think about that. How does that work? And also just think about how you reframe guilt. think about what does that look like. Don't try not to feel guilty. We're human. Those are emotions that we have. But you have to think about how does that affect your peace? If you're feeling guilty, you're probably not in a peaceful place. And is that self-inflicted guilt? Or is it something that you really feel like you should be doing because you want to please someone else? But how is that person helping facilitate what you're doing and reaching your goals of being calm and taking care of yourself, right? Just remember all these things as you're going into the next couple days of this week. You know, we have to really stop negotiating our well-being. We truly do. You have some tools now. You can use them. Your future self is counting on them. It's not going to happen overnight. I don't expect it to. Don't expect it to happen overnight either. You have to give yourself grace. Grace is something that all of us extend to everyone else, but often not ourselves. And we need to figure out how can we honor ourselves and our time. And if there are energy vampires around you, take stock of that. That doesn't mean you got to shut them out and be like, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. You just pull yourself back, make sure you give yourself that space, put yourself in that bubble, if you will. Um, I have a space in my house that is my meditation room, my Zen den. And it basically is a room of my what do you call it? Vision board. I'm looking at them right now in my office. It's like my own live and on stage vision board. Each wall in that room is a representation of something in my life. I know that's not something everybody else has an opportunity to do, but one wall is my sorority stuff. One wall is the name of my company, Merake, and what it means, which is putting yourself, the essence of yourself into your work through soul, creativity, and love. That's what Merake means. And then another wall is my artwork and artwork that I've gotten over the years. I have a drafting table because I like to paint. It calms me. It's something that I was able to do while I was in the hospital and couldn't do anything else during COVID. And then I have a prayer space. I have an altar, an ancestral altar, a prayer space where I sit and I meditate. I use my singing bowls. I burn incense. I talk to my loved ones that have passed on. Or, I sit in the room and dance around and I surround myself with things that remind me of how I feel as a person, what makes me feel good. And that's my reset sometimes. I don't go down there all the time, but it helps, right? So those things, are some ways that you can create that sacred space. If you have a box, there's elements that you have that remind you or give you peace that you can carry with you somewhere. And then you take it with you to a room or a bathroom or somewhere outside under a tree or you're walking. And when I talk about meditating, I know some people think you got to sit there with your arms crossed and doing all this. You can take a walk and that's meditating. You can write in your journal and that's meditating. It's how you take time to reflect and protect your boundaries and give yourself that sacred space to recalibrate like I mentioned earlier and stuff. So, what's one word you're taking away from this session? Put it in the chat or share if you will, if you'd like to. Um, and if you feel like you were able to, yes, no, is a complete sentence. Exactly. And think of some other things that may really resonate with you. So as I'm closing, this is my QR code. I have a free self-care starter kit that's on my website. Um, I want to thank you for joining me on this wellness journey. Your commitment to self-care is the first step toward sustainable success in all aspects of your life, whether it be an entrepreneur or what have you. Scan the QR code to the right. It'll take you to my Meraki Empowerment Collective website. There's an entrepreneur self-care guide at the top, and then there's also one about taking care of yourself without feeling guilty. That's a little bit further down on the page. And then this QR code also takes you to filling out a little survey for me, and then it'll take you to the guide. Um, and just really remember when you prioritize your well-being, everything else elevates. The keyword for accessing the QR code information is breathe as well. And if you have any other questions or concerns, or you just want to connect, I'm working on developing a coaching program that I anticipate releasing near the end of August, beginning of September. There'll also be a community called the Oxygen Lounge that I'll be launching as well, so that we can kind of get together and chit chat about some of these things that how are we getting through that day? What is our breath work? What are some things that, I just really need to go punch something. That's how it's going to make me feel better because I can punch something. I'm hoping that it's not a person. Should be a heavy bag or a pillow. Um, but you can find me on social media at Natalie A. Solomon. On LinkedIn, same thing. And my email is info@natalieasolomon.com. If you have other questions or want to have another, set up another one-on-one session, or something to that effect. Um, and remember, as we're closing out, your self-care practice does not end here. The small daily choices create lasting transformation. Like those items that I gave you before, those quick little scripts, and making sure that you are taking that time, giving yourself grace. Grace is so important. You cannot be everything to everybody. And it's important to always secure your oxygen mask first. So if there's any other questions or anything like that, please let me know. I'd love to connect with you. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook, as well. I can be reached. Or if you want to just chit chat and talk. I also used to run a support group at my agency for women. And this is just a quick story, and I know we're closing out, but um, with everything that was going on in the environment and society, I decided to create a check-in saying it's okay to take a break. And it's something that I'm going to bring into the Oxygen Lounge. And when I had the first session, and it really was, it's okay to take a break. And it was in the middle of the day, and we showed up. The lady showed up. We had about a little over 100. And this is folks from CMS, NIH. And they're like, what do we have to do? And I said, nothing. You can just sit here and listen to my little presentation. You could just watch it or whatever and just chill. And then conversation evolved out of that. So those are things that you just got to give yourself grace. So thank you again for your attention. Thank you, Society Gal, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Dana, for having that time with me to allow me to share this. And I'm honored that you all decided to spend this time with me as well. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the workshop.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. You're
Awesome.
welcome.
Yeah, any more questions in the chat, feedback, put it in the chat for Natalie. And then I will be sending the networking event link for the next networking call next week. Hope to see you all on there. All righty. And then if we'll wait just like one more minute, see if there's any more questions. But other than that, thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. Give yourself grace at all costs. Oh, good. I'm glad it's perfect timing. And it's okay to just sit there and do nothing sometimes and just be unapologetically. So thank you again. I appreciate it. Any questions? No? I guess that's good, right?
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.